Political corruption is like cancer. Just as cancer eats away at the human body, corruption destroys the body politic. It starts small, often unnoticed, but can grow and spread quickly. Corruption changes the structure and function of political systems, just like cancer alters healthy cells. It is a disease that can lead to the death of democratic governance. This analogy is helpful because it shows how dangerous corruption is. When we think of corruption as a sickness, it becomes clear why it needs to be treated urgently. Just as doctors fight cancer to save lives, citizens and leaders must fight corruption to save democracies. Without treatment, both cancer and corruption can become fatal. The cancer analogy also highlights the complexity of corruption. It is not just about bribes or embezzlement. Corruption involves many parts of the system, much like cancer affects multiple organs. Understanding this complexity is key to fighting it effectively. Corruption often starts small, like a single abnormal cell. At first, it might be just a minor favor or a little bit of nepotism. Small acts of corruption can seem harmless, but like cancer cells, they can multiply. Each small act of corruption makes the next one easier. Over time, corruption becomes a habit. Corruption can begin for many reasons. Sometimes it is due to low wages. Officials might take bribes to make ends meet. Other times it is about power. Politicians might use corruption to stay in control. Regardless of the reason, the effect is the same: corruption spreads. Once corruption starts, it changes the entire system. Honest officials may feel pressured to join in. The system starts to reward corrupt behavior and punish honesty. This transformation is like a healthy body turning into a sick one. The longer corruption goes unchecked, the harder it is to stop. Political carcinogenesis is the process by which corruption creates systemic issues. Just like cancer can create tumors, corruption creates problems in governance. These problems can become so big that they seem impossible to solve. They are deeply rooted in the system. One major issue is the loss of public trust. When people see corruption, they lose faith in their leaders. They might stop voting or participating in politics. This lack of trust weakens democracy. Another issue is inefficiency. Corruption wastes resources. Money that should go to public services ends up in the pockets of corrupt officials. Corruption also leads to inequality. The rich and powerful can use corruption to get what they want. This leaves ordinary people at a disadvantage. Over time, this inequality can create social unrest. People might protest or even revolt. This is why political carcinogenesis is so dangerous. It can destabilize entire countries. Section 4. Metastasis in politics, spread and destruction. Metastasis in politics is when corruption spreads from one part of the system to another. Just like cancer can spread to different organs, corruption can spread to different areas of governance. This makes it harder to control and more destructive. One way corruption spreads is through networks. Corrupt officials often work together. They protect each other and share resources. This network can grow, spreading corruption to new areas. Another way is through laws and policies. Corrupt leaders might create laws that benefit themselves and their allies. This makes it easier for corruption to spread. The effects of metastasis are devastating. It can lead to total collapse of governance. Public services might fail. The economy can suffer. In extreme cases, the country can fall into chaos. This is why it is crucial to stop corruption before it spreads. Once it reaches the metastatic stage, it is much harder to treat. Section 5. Real-world examples of corruption. There are many real-world examples of political corruption. One famous case is the Watergate scandal in the United States. In the 1970s, President Nixon's administration was caught in a web of corruption. This led to Nixon's resignation and a loss of trust in the government. Another example is in Brazil. The Operation Car Wash investigation exposed massive corruption involving politicians and business leaders. Billions of dollars were embezzled from public funds. This scandal led to the imprisonment of many officials and a crisis in the government. Closer to present times, we see corruption in countries like South Africa. The Gupta family scandal involved high-level corruption with former President Jacob Zuma. This case showed how deeply corruption can penetrate the political system. These examples highlight the global nature of this issue and its serious consequences. Section 6. Conclusion. Addressing corruption to save the body politic. Addressing corruption is essential to save the body politic. Just like with cancer, early detection and treatment are crucial. Citizens must demand transparency and accountability from their leaders. Governments should implement strong anti-corruption laws and enforce them strictly. Education is also important. People need to understand the dangers of corruption and how it affects their lives. Media and civil society can play a big role in this. They can raise awareness and hold leaders accountable. Fighting corruption requires a joint effort from all parts of society. Lastly, international cooperation is needed. Corruption often crosses borders. Countries should work together to fight it. This can include sharing information and resources. By addressing corruption, we can save democracies and ensure a better future for all.